Donald Trump just whiffed on a softball interview with Mark Levin from Fox. That's how he talks. That's why I'm saying it like that. He was asked some of the most simple questions, and this was just horrible. Let me show you some of the lowlights. Like when Donald Trump said he doesn't know who Judge Eileen Cannon is, and then he claims he just happened to win the Florida case where he stole nuclear secrets. Play this clip.
Opponent, there's nobody been treated like me. I won the big case in Florida. That was supposed to be the biggest of the cases. I won the big case. I don't know the judge, but the judge was a brilliant judge, strong, smart, and a brilliant judge.
Oh, you don't know the name of the federal judge who you appointed, who said that special counsels don't exist and then dismissed the case, which, by the way, is up on the 11th Circuit on appeal by special counsel Jack Smith. I'm very confident special counsel Jack Smith's going to win that appeal. Yes, and that's the case. Maybe you should say what it is, Donald, where you stole nuclear secrets and war plans. Then Donald Trump starts talking about how Jewish people shouldn't support Vice President Kamala Harris. And again, just Donald Trump being anti-Semitic. Play this clip.
How a Jewish person can vote for a Democrat, but specifically somebody like Kamala. She wouldn't even meet with Bibi when he was, look, he came over, he's the Prime Minister of Israel. He's in a war. We're heavily invested in that war.
Then Donald Trump calls Senator Chuck Schumer the highest ranking Jewish senator ever. I think one of the highest ranking Jewish leaders ever. He calls him a Palestinian, which is also highly offensive to Palestinians. Trump uses the term Palestinian like it's like an insult. I mean, again, just watch this.
It's amazing. If you go back 15 years or even less, the strongest lobby in that sense in the United States was Israel. You couldn't say a thing about Israel, Christian or Jew. You couldn't say anything about today. It's like under siege. You look at AOC +3, you look at these people, the way they talk about it. And then you see Schumer, who's become a Palestinian, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, he's actually become like a Hamas agent. Schumer, how did that happen?
Then Donald Trump praises the authoritarian from Hungary, Viktor Orban, and says what a strong man Viktor Orban is. Here, play this clip.
Yes, the Prime Minister of Hungary, as you know who I'm talking about, Viktor Orban.
And he's in the book?
He's in the book.
A lot of these leaders you dealt with are in the book.
Many of them are, yeah. But they asked him, what do you think? I mean, why is the world blowing up? Viktor Orban it's strong. They consider him strong. It's a good thing, not a bad thing. Runs a strong country.
By the way, the entire GDP of Hungary is less than what many American large corporations make in revenue in a single year. Again, I don't know that Donald Trump knows the way revenue works because Trump media has lost like $300 million and barely brings in any revenue, but I digress. Here, Donald Trump goes after Vice President Kamala Harris for giving the Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh a very hard time at his confirmation hearing. Listen to this.
People like I've never seen anything like it. Look at the way she fought Justice Kavanaugh, the viciousness and the violence.
More on that in one moment. I'll show you what Vice President Kamala Harris said. Then Donald Trump says that we have people here from countries that we never even heard of. What do you mean we never even heard of the countries? Here, play this clip.
We have people that are allowed to just walk in from countries unknown, from countries that nobody's ever even heard of, from countries where we don't even know how to speak their language, because small countries are a lot of them, many more countries than people think. Nobody in this country even knows how to speak the language, and yet those children are occupying now seats in our schools, taking them away from our citizens. Our veterans.
Then Donald Trump, who quite literally went from I'm voting yes on repealing a 6-week abortion ban to I'm voting no on repealing a 6-week abortion ban in one day, as Ben Wexler puts it, calls Vice President Kamala Harris a flip-flopper. Here, play this clip.
But she's just really out there. Now she's totally changed her whole policies, everything. I mean, she's gone, they call her the greatest flip-flopper because she's gone for I'll never drill for oil to let's put a well on every street. But she won't do that. If she won, she'll never do that.
Then Donald Trump starts making bizarre religious appeals. Play this clip.
During a speech, I just said, put out the chart. And I, boom, turned around. If I turned around just a little bit less or a little bit more, if I turned around more or less, it was still the end. So it's God. I know people that have become believers in God because of it, but I rarely use the chart.
Now I want to show you what Donald Trump was talking about, why he's terrified to debate Vice President Kamala Harris, and why he's tried to cancel it many times, and now he says it's back on. This is the moment where Vice President Kamala Harris was cross-examining Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Take a look at this. She did an incredible job here. Here, play this clip.
Can you think of any laws that give government the power to make decisions about the male body?
I'm happy to answer a more specific question, but
Male versus female.
there are medical procedures.
Okay? That the government has the power to make a decision about a man's body.
I thought you were asking about medical procedures that are unique to men.
I'll repeat the question. Can you think of any laws that give the government the power to make decisions about the male body?
I'm not thinking of any right now, Senator.
When referring to cases as settled law, you have described them as precedent and, quote, precedent on precedent. You've mentioned that a number of times today and during the course of the hearing. As a factual matter, can 5 Supreme Court justices overturn any precedent at any time if a case comes before them on that issue?
You start with the system of precedent that's rooted in the Constitution.
I know, but just as a factual matter, 5 justices, if in agreement, can overturn any precedent. Wouldn't you agree?
Senator, there's a reason why the Supreme Court doesn't do that.
But do you agree that it can do that?
Well, it has overruled precedent at various times in our history. The most prominent example being Brown versus Board of Education, the Erie case, which overruled Swift versus Tyson.
So we both agree. We both agree the court has done it and can do it.
There are times, but there's a series of conditions, important conditions, that if faithfully applied, make it rare. And the system of precedent's rooted in the Constitution. It's not a matter of policy to be discarded at whim.
But there's nothing, you and I agree, that prevents the court from doing it, meaning that it is not prohibited. The court is, if I may finish, the court is not prohibited from overruling or overturning precedent. No matter what the steps are that the court must take, the court may overrule precedent. And so my question also is then, do you believe that this can happen no matter how long the precedent has been on the books? For example, there's no statute of limitations during which, after that statute of limitations is passed, the court may not touch precedent. Would you agree?
Well, for example, the Supreme Court this past year said that Korematsu had been overturned in the court of history. That, of course, was the case that allowed the internment of during World War II of Japanese Americans in the Supreme Court this past term. That was a 1942 or 3 decision in the Supreme Court.
But you'd agree there's no statute of limitations. The court can go back as far as it wanted if it believed it was warranted. There's nothing that prevents the court from reaching back many years.
What I would say is there are a series of conditions that the Supreme Court must meet, and the age of a precedent, as I think the Supreme Court itself has articulated many times, does ordinarily add to the force of the precedent and make it an even rarer circumstance where the court would disturb an old precedent.
Thank you.
And also, do you remember when Vice President Kamala Harris debated former Vice President Mike Pence, who Donald Trump tried to have killed? Remember that moment? Do you play this clip?
This is important. I want to add, Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking. It is asking too much of the people.
Susan, we talked about
It is asking too much of the people.
Well, Susan, thank you, although I would like to go back I think we need to move on
well,
to the
thank
issue
you,
of
but I would like to go back.
In 1864.
Well, I'd like you to answer the question.
Mr.
Yes,
Vice President, I'm
please.
speaking. I'm speaking. Okay.
We
Thank you,
still
Vice
learn
President.
from it, and I think
Vice
the
President
American
Pence, your
people,
time is
I want
up.
to say again, can be
Vice
proud
President Pence, I'm sorry,
of
your
what
time
we
is
have
up.
done. She has
15 seconds because
Well, I gotta
we're
have
trying
more
to
than
keep.
that. Look.
Well, I'm sorry, but Vice President
Look,
Pence, you've
I-
had more time than she's
The
had.
truth and the fact is, Joe Biden has been very clear. He will not raise taxes on anybody who makes less than $400,000
He said
a
he's going
year.
to repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well, wait,
I'm speaking. If you don't mind letting me finish, we can then
Please.
have a conversation, okay?
please.
Okay.
Then as Donald Trump's giving these bizarre softball interviews, like you remember the one from, what was it, Friday night with Moms of Liberty, where he just started like bizarrely talking about Ivanka and how he wants to make Ivanka the UN secretary. Here, play this clip.
But she gave it up because she wanted to go, and she didn't want something like the United Nations secretary. I wanted her to do that. I said, you would be a great ambassador to the United Nations secretary. There'd be nobody to compete with her. I tell you, she may be my daughter, but nobody could have competed with her rat-tat-tat, the whole deal she's got.
Strange stuff, folks, but wanted to make sure I covered Donald Trump's horrific interview with Mark Levin. Straight up propaganda. Donald Trump can't even do that right. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 4 million subscribers together. Thanks for watching.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.